This is the Color Coded podcast. We're from the Nova SBE School in Portugal, which is a business school, and we are hosted by the Pride Association, which is a club that looks to advocate for the LGBTQI plus community, both at the university and beyond. I'm Emery. I'm the host of this podcast. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and today I'm joined by Joana and Lena, who are going to be talking about surfing and their experience with gender equality in the surfing industry. If you could both introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your surfing background, what kind of waves you like to surf, that'd be awesome.
Hi, I'm Lena, and I'm actually, I don't surf since very long. I surfed since maybe like 7 years, just before I came to Portugal, and I was kind of a beginner when I came here, and then I just immediately changed my entire life to revolve around surfing, and I'm pretty into it. I surf almost every day, and I'm very dedicated, and my training, like I said, my entire life revolves around surfing, so I was able to progress pretty quickly. And then after a few years, I got really, really excited about surfing a little bit bigger waves.
Oh, let's bring more women to the big waves because we are so few. So I'm Joana Andrade. I'm 41 years old. I'm from Portugal. The only thing I know to do is surf. So I start very young in Cascais. I used to compete, and after a while, I decided to challenge more myself and to catch more bigger waves. So I started training, and in this moment I love to do waves, and I'm the only Portuguese surfer surfing in Nazaré. So it is, and I have a surf school in Ericeira to teach how this beautiful sport is it.
Thank you both. I think it's a really awesome perspective we have here, where we have a sort of veteran of the industry and someone who's coming into it in a bit more of a fresh perspective. You know, Joana, when I was doing some research for this podcast, I was reading a lot of articles about you. You've done a lot of media presence, which is really cool. One of the things, though, that I did notice when I was doing my research was that it was typically I would see things like female surfer Joana, or woman surfer does this. And when I would look up Kai Lenny, for example, or another surfer who's a male, I never see male surfer Kai Lenny does this, you know? It's always the woman it's a part of the rhetoric. And I was wondering if you could explain to me why you think that might be.
Well, good question. First, I think we are so few girls in this industry. And I think now is our time to change, you know? Before it was and this sport is measure of time is for men's. And now you see more women. So when you see some news, you see women surfing this because it's not normal, you know.
Yeah.
And now, you see, now you see more the movies. You see the superheroes is the women. You see we are get out of our box and we start to fight and say, yeah, if you can, we can. We are the same, you know, with a different body, but we are the same. So the fears, they are there. So I think it's the reason they start to put women's this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you think, Lena.
I think sometimes also because they don't know better. I'm being interviewed a lot by, let's say, sports magazines, but that are not so focused on surfing, you know? And then they always ask me about women perspectives, and they hardly ask me about surfing, you know? It's sometimes it really bothers me, but I try to just not focus on it and switch the conversation more to surfing. Just the other day I did an interview with one of the biggest TV channels in Germany, and they only asked me about women empowerment, and I said, are you ask me something about waves. I want to talk about the way I surf, I want to talk about spots, and I don't only want to talk about, of course it's part of it, but it's something that I like to do on the side. I'm about surfing, I'm not about women empowerment first, you know.
I think that's really awesome, and actually that leads me to sort of ask for my next question, which was, you know, I think representation of people in sports makes a difference as to who's going to participate. So as we see more representation of gender diversity, women in surfing, more young girls might be inspired to do that. When you were sort of getting into surfing, and did you have much representation, and who was inspiring you to sort of get into the water?
Well, for me, it was not easy to find proof for my parents, because when I start, the surf was not so famous, was like more like a sport of the junkie people. They like to smoke, they like to drink, was not so now fantasy like now it is, so was not easy. I think the inspiration was the ocean, because it was the only place I was feeling connect, feeling calm. Be there for me was like to forget everything and living in the moments. So my inspiration come from me, and probably maybe from girls I was watching in TV from Hawaii and Australia. Was so few girls, but I don't know. I always have an attraction for the ocean.
Honestly, I think it's quite similar. Obviously, I mean, when I started surfing, like it's just a few years ago, so there were surf movies like all over the place. Like it was kind of the big mainstream trend. But obviously, like when I came here to Ericeira, there were quite a few girls around, because I mean, I came here as a proper beginner. I bought a shortboard because I thought it was cool, like everyone, and I couldn't stand up on it. But I hardly saw women in the water, and still now, like when we see probably Joana in your surf classes, like most beginners are girls, right?
Yeah, sure.
Most of them, and then when we look a bit further, like a few years, suddenly all the girls left, and it's still a little bit like this, honestly. So my inspiration in terms of surfers were mainly men.
I agree with you. Me too. Was not so much romance, but I think it was a mix.
Yeah.
It was a mix, because I think the men's, they inspire you more. They push you more the limits. They won't, and the women's, they like, okay, should I go? Should I not? Because they don't have the. How can I say? They have a lot of fear in the ocean.
Yeah.
Or they have like a lot of problems to go alone.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a sport very individual.
I have a lot of fear to go alone.
Me too, everyone.
100%. But I think it's probably the same for you. Like a lot of people now probably like write you messages and say you're inspiring, and you're the inspiration for a lot of people probably, you know? I mean, even I get messages like this on Instagram, like kind of weekly, true. And it's cute. It's really nice.
It's nice, yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
it's super funny because the girls, like, they're always like struggling with those things. Like, I'm super scared. Exactly what you said. I'm super scared in the ocean. I don't have anyone to go with. And I'm like, honestly, same for me. You know, maybe the conditions are a bit different, but it's the same fears. It's the same struggles. Like, it doesn't change.
And so with that, and sort of, you know, I think it takes a certain amount of not only dedication and lifestyle shift, as you're sort of alluding to, Lena, in terms of committing to surfing at this level. What do you think it takes sort of mentally to commit to surfing in the ways that you do, in the lifestyle and the living and breathing of the sport?
Oh, that's a question for Joana. I think we're very different with this, but I think you're mentally you're much better.
I think I'm more better in my mentally than my physical, you know. And I always like to push my limits and to understand where it comes from, the fear, because like I tell you, I always say, fear it's good to have in life. It puts you aware and give you tools. Panic can kill you. So they are two different feelings. And I think with the fear, I learn a lot about myself, about my challenge, about my priorities, about who I am, you know. And maybe it's the reason I like to challenge bigger waves, to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I always have affection for the adrenaline, or to get out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I think I'm playing more with my mind, with my body in this situation. But for you doing huge waves, you need to have like the two play together, your body, your mind, and your hearts.
Super interesting. Yeah, for me I relate a lot to what you say, but I think I'm at a different stage. Like my heart is there for sure, and for me, I try to prepare as much as I can physically, because it calms me down, you know? When I know, like, okay, my fins are properly screwed in and my wetsuit is good and all my equipment is good, and I know I can hold my breath for a really long time, and I know the spot, that's when I feel better. Like, I have a very conservative approach to surfing, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're brave, and like, I'm really not, you know? I go so slowly, like you know Joana, right? When you say, I'm like, step by step, you know? I'm like when I surf, for example, here is a spot to surf a little bit bigger waves. Like I go 10 times when the meters are like knee high, and then I go like I'm so slow, and that's just the way I feel more safe and more better. But yeah, I
But
don't
this
know.
is good, you know.
I think it's good. I
This
think
is
it's
good.
good.
You're not doing like inconscient.
Yeah,
You're doing. You aware of your situation.
yeah,
You know the fear it's there, the danger is there, but you study and you analyze
sometimes I would like to like flip the switch a bit more. Like sometimes I get it and everything aligns and everything feels right and I just go for it. But a lot of times I'm in the water and I have a bad intuition and I leave the water.
Me too. Me too all the time. Like I think it's good to have fear. It puts you humble.
Yeah, very.
Very humble, and this maybe is the reason
Yeah.
we like big waves, you know, because it's not come from the ego, it's come from you. Once when you are there, you're like, we are all with fear,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
And you need to be humble, and if you fall in a wave, you need to be completely relaxed. You cannot get scary, you cannot start to panic. You just need to surrender.
Yeah, that's true. It's so funny because I don't panic. Like I never panicked in the water, and when something happens, like I don't care. You know, it's so funny. It's just this mind game of anticipation, but I'm working on it.
That's awesome. No.
So you help with the physical, and I
Yeah,
help with
that's
the
true.
mental.
Honestly, I really need that.
Yeah. Are there some practices that you do outside of the water and outside of surfing that helps you build that mental strength?
I mean, for me, I always say like the best training for surfing is surfing. You know, it's just and if you're fit physically and all of this, like it's for me, it's the best thing I can do. But in the end, the biggest reason what helps me mentally is just the excitement. Like I really love it. And I think that's the best motivator and the best mental exercise.
I think I agree with Lena. The best is like surfing and being in the water. And I think for me, what helped me a lot to organize my day and to be more connect is like every day I take 10-20 minutes of my life. And the first thing I do when I wake up is making a big meditation with the breathing techniques. And just to be okay, to visualize a good day or to catching a good wave. I think it's very important, especially in this time we are, to take time for ourselves. And the days just go so fast and sometimes we forget.
Totally. I appreciate that. You were in a film, Big versus Small, a documentary about your sort of the dynamic between the mental and physical pressures and routines that you go through to sort of prepare for competition and prepare for big waves. And one of the interesting parts of the film that I thought, that sort of really spoke to me was your fear of drowning and your fear of sort of one of the most innate things that comes to the sport. And I'm wondering, in what ways have you grown since that documentary in that space?
Well, I grow a lot because if you see the whole movie, I show a lot of parts of me I was not supposed to, and when I was a secret inside of me and for the society. And I was taking care a long time just for myself. And when I start to share with the world, it seems like I release one part of me and I forget one part of me. And maybe I went to escape, or maybe I do extreme sports because of maybe what happened to me in the past. Now I'm forgetting myself 100%, but it was a big process to go until there.
It's an incredible documentary, I think, because it shows a really complex person, as the protagonist. And I think a lot of media representation of women in surfing is often kind of one-dimensional. There was another documentary called Out in the Lineup, which came out in 2014, which is about the LGBTQI plus community in surfing. And it was really interesting because in the documentary, quite a few people allude to the sort of ways in which they were not able to access spaces of either getting sponsorships, or when they did, they were really policed as to the ways in which they could be themselves. And I'm wondering if either of you have experienced any sort of issue getting access to, sponsorships because of your gender or anything else.
I mean, I think for me, it's kind of the other end of the spectrum, because like, okay, my Instagram is quite nice and I surf quite nice, but I don't even surf that good, But I always joke, I look like the stereotypical surfer girl. Like I do 100%. And that gives me a lot of access to sponsorship. like, I mean, I don't have like financial long-term sponsors, but I do get a lot of brand sponsors. I get like photo shoots and stuff, and it helps me a lot. And I know 100% it is because I surf and because I look exactly like the stereotypical surfer girl is supposed to look, like blonde, tan, small, skinny. Like that is me.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but it's what it is.
What is sell, and you are natural.
Yeah,
You say the truth. This is what the people like to see.
Exactly, but I still like, I mean, I find it quite unfair sometimes because even like with some sponsors, like I tell them like, okay, get someone else on board, try this, or a lot of times like when the brands, they post their content on their social media, it's super funny because sometimes I even get criticized. Like they say, like for a protein powder, for example, I was criticized a lot on the brand page because people said, stop using models and start using people that actually do sports that need protein powder. And I was like, I am. So for me, it's a bit of a weird situation, but I mean, I'm at the moment, I'm kind of benefiting from the stereotype, I have to say, honestly.
Well, I don't say the same for me, because for me, I need financial sponsors. What I do in big waves and all my career and all my lives I dedicate of this kind of surf. I'm in a point I say, okay, for doing this, I need money,
Absolutely.
And it's not easy, especially in this sport, to have like a financial sponsor. First, because they think you are a woman, so you're more weak to the guys. After, they want to see like nice pictures, and they want to see how many followers you have in Instagram. And if you don't have too much followers, you're not nothing. And most of the times I will say, but I'm a surfer, I'm not an influencer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's my fault because I don't know how to sell me. I'm good surfing. I know I'm a good, but I'm not good selling. If I have the two things, maybe I can sell me better. But yeah, I never think about.
Yeah, because you have like, honestly, like objective, you have a lot to sell. Like, I'm better at selling myself. I don't have that much to
maybe
sell.
you can help me.
Yeah.
I'm so bad selling myself.
And I think also like people they don't care much about bigger waves yet.
Yeah, they want to the content.
It's more like competition things.
Yeah.
I think most brands still, they want more competitions, not free surfers or big wave surfers.
They want competing because they know when you compete, okay, you know they're going to appear in this competition, the TV is going to be there, so. And it's true, like the reality, this about sponsors, if you have like some connections inside of the brand, or if you know someone, is more easy,
Yeah.
But it's like life, and life is always going to be like this. So what I understand is like doing with your heart, and the things come in your sides.
And piss off some brands in the process. That's what I do. That's what I do. Yeah. I got a big fight with a big surf brand a few years ago. I had a few already. Yeah, with I'm not gonna say the name, the one in town.
Me too, with the big one with the vest.
Because they made a documentary about surfing in Portugal, especially in Ericeira, and it was a 13 documentary. 3 minutes they speak about the highway. 3 out of 13 minutes the highway, and they failed to mention any woman. Wow. They didn't, and it was about surfing, surf culture, and surf businesses. And the European champion is Portuguese. The only big wave surfer in Europe almost is Portuguese. Yeah. One of the best surf businesses, they just forgot to mention, even then they had a little chapter about the next generation, and they simply forgot. There was no bad intention, they simply forgot. So what I did, I was sponsored by them at the time. I put a little Instagram story, and I just put it's 2020, really? And they went batshit crazy. I had all the brand managers on their phone the entire day. The entire team blocked me, and they dropped everything, and they criticized me, and they said forget about ever coming back to us.
Whoa.
And I even said, but look, you are a company of 300 people. What happened? You know? And they said, well, none of us had any issues with this. And then the highest position, I think it was the marketing director, said, well, there are no women worth mentioning in Portugal.
What?
Yeah. It's crazy, huh? And this is the brand managers of the biggest companies here. So obviously, those would be the people to sponsor.
Absolutely.
People like us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true. I have a big fight too. Yeah. Of course, I'm not going to say the name. Actually, I say the name. I don't care. because normally in the big waves we use a vest, airbag vest, and the only brand I have is like, and I buy these vests and they say me, Joana, keep the vest like this, don't put like no brand to tag, because if you have some problems with the vest in the future you come to us and we fix. And I make this last year, no, 3 months ago, I said to the brand, okay, my vest is this, okay, it's like 1,000 euros. And they say, what, are you joking with me? After everything I do for you, the movie, the publicity I made, and I'm the only represent here in Portugal, and you going to charge me this? Yes, because your vest is already 4 years and you have like a problem. And I knew it the day before. They were giving in 2 months in Nazareth, take the vests. And I say, come on, I'm the only girl in Portugal, and you prefer to give people like you don't know, this is our politics, sorry. I was like, no, this can happen.
Yeah.
You know, I was super sad and super disappointed with like big brands, you know, what for a vest, you know, and after they give to people they don't know.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, of course, like in Portugal, it's very tricky because you have this, you start a small fire and you end up with a big fire, and you end up your entire day on your mobile phone with people texting you that are angry. But a lot of times I do it, you know, I prefer to have the fight, and I go to the European level and I tell someone.
Because you are good writing.
Yeah, I go for it.
So this is good, you know, because we
it.
cannot stay quiet forever, you know.
Absolutely.
It's time to...
But at the same time, I mean, you know this little lawsuit I had, I dropped it in the end because I don't have the power anymore.
Yeah, because of course the big company needs to take your energy.
I can't, Let's speak about localism.
Yeah.
Can speak about because one thing I said is like also like it's still the old generation. I mean, I'm not someone who's against localism at all, but what we can see is like most of the kind of older surfers here, it's kind of a closed group of guys, and it's the last generation I think that's happening here, and a lot of them are extremely sexist. I know it because I know like it's nice because a lot of them think I don't speak Portuguese, and I surf like one of the like most local spots a lot here. And I know what they're talking about, you know.
Really?
Yeah. and by mistake, once someone put me in the WhatsApp group, and it's just porn all over. And I know what they speak about me. I know what they speak about my friend Christina and stuff. Like, and it's super sexist, but I can see it's like the last generation kind of leaving of this type of stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. And when you're sort of dealing with people in industry, in these sort of like big organizations, are you ever dealing with women? Are there any women sort of in these organizations?
I think now they start to have more women in the power.
Yes.
But most of the big companies is by men, you know.
Right.
So when we start to have women in the power, I think the mentality changed completely.
I think so too. Yeah, slowly it's coming, and with surfing as well.
Yeah.
Like slowly it's coming. But a lot of times when I need some support, you know, I ask women in the company for support. But a lot of times they don't want to give it, and of course sometimes it's a bit weak. But I understand not everyone wants to put up a fight, and I understand they're in a difficult situation as well.
Yeah.
So, but I see it your way. It's slowly changing.
It's like slow.
Absolutely.
I feel it's going to change.
Yeah.
And Joana, you do a lot of work with young women and women surfing, and you have a surf school that you sort of enable women to get into surfing. And I guess you being the instructor is already quite inspirational. So I'm wondering sort of what the future of surfing in Portugal you see for women. Do you think that more Portuguese women will get into surfing?
You already see a big community of girls, women surfing here in Portugal.
Amazing.
You already see a lot. What I'm doing now more, it's putting like the surf in Africa in the different countries, because, you know, like in Africa, it's not like this. The women, they don't have the same education, the same authorization like men's. For example, I can tell you, now we have an institution in the São Tomé and Príncipe, and the women there, they're not allowed to make sports. They have to be in a house to take care of the brothers. They need to cook, they need to clean. And the men, they can go play, they can surf. So we went there and we changed the mentality and say, no, let's put this girl surfing. And let's speak with the father, say no, but it can be good for the community there, because they can start to think by yourself, you know. They are not thinking about yourself. We make some interviews and most of the girls say, I don't know what I want to do. I'm going to get pregnant, I'm going to have a son, and this is my life. And they say, no, you can do more than this, you know. You can have like a life, you can have like things you love to do. So I think we put like the surf there for like a therapy. And it helps me a lot, the girls like grow up and to be more independent. And here in Portugal, I'm working a lot with tourism. I used to have a surf school by women, just by women, when I start to compete. But I think Portugal is already have a lot of girls. Not in Ericeira. Ericeira we have like, because where we live, it's a mix of different nationalities, not just Portuguese living here, actually less Portuguese and things. But I think we are in a good way. Of course, when the waves is small, we see a lot of girls. When the waves is big, probably we just see me and Lena in the water, not anyone.
Awesome.
But it's cool what you say about Africa, you know. I think it's really good, and it puts like the struggles we have here, you know. It's more like things that are annoying, but it puts it into perspective. Like I like to talk about it a lot, like how annoying it is in companies and sponsorship, but it's nowhere in relation to the problems that girls have in other parts of the world.
Totally. And I love that, you know, you're mobilizing a sport that's typically sort of discriminatory against women to liberate, you know, women. And I think that's a really awesome way to kind of shift the banner a little bit. Yeah, because I think even when we think about like racial diversity, and it's interesting that you bring in sort of the African continent into this, because I feel like even just my sort of limited knowledge or kind of perspective of the surf industry is actually quite white overall. And
like me.
Exactly,
like I said,
like you were saying,
there are very few people that have a bit bigger bodies. There are very few people that have darker skin.
Right.
Like it's very it's very limited.
There's a Fantasy community.
very
Yeah.
I think it's slowly changing as well.
Totally.
But Portugal is kind of very much in the last parts of that. I think.
Understood. And it's really cool then you're both sort of in this part of the community. Sometimes the best work is done in the hardest areas, right? Are there any sort of other topics you two want to discuss specifically?
I don't know. I think we speak too much about the women, but the men's the same. If we are start to grow up all together in the same level, I think the world is more beautiful.
Totally.
And more respecting.
Totally.
And not so competing. But I think, not because I'm a woman, but I think we live by our hearts, by our emotions. And the men's, they are more like, help me Lena, more like wilds.
Yeah.
If you study the story, the
Which
history
is cool,
of the world is like this, you know.
Absolutely.
And now it's changing, and they start to give you value. But there are so many things they need to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's true. I also wish it would be just more a bit connected.
Absolutely.
I tried a lot. Like sometimes, you know, there are like little groups of friends that go surf together, and it's still a bit hard to get into it, you know, as a girl. Yeah. Like if you see them in the water, it's all cool and stuff, but I can see you're always, at least that's how I feel, I'm always a bit of an outsider. But I think also like it's changing slowly, and I would prefer if there was just not that much of a differentiation.
I feel like we can't talk about any sort of gender liberation without everyone's sort of input and investing in it. And on that, I was wondering if either of you know any transgender or gender non-binary surfers, you know, personally or in the industry at large.
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I know there are some.
Of course, yes.
But not openly.
Well,
like it's not easy, especially in Portugal. We don't have this mentality, like people not ready. Not like if you go to England or if you see this, like here it's more this close mentality, especially with the families and all this. So a lot of people
they hide. Yeah, I think the surf industry is very conservative.
Yeah, and I guess the final question is, this was from the club. If, there are young women or gender diverse people listening to this podcast, what like tips or what would you say to them to kind of inspire them to face their fears in any system that they feel that they are the minority? Like, how do you persevere in that?
If you want, just say, go for it. Don't be afraid,
Exactly.
Be yourself. And love yourself, because if you don't take care of you, no one is going to take care of you. If you don't respect, no one's going to respect you. And we need to love ourselves. And sometimes it's so difficult because we don't fall in love with ourselves. And I was like this, Of course, if they tell me if I'm loving myself every day, I'm going to say no. But I try to be a better person. I try to feed my inner child. And I try to understand my fears and don't close and go to the fights, And what I say is like, if you really would like one thing, go for it. Go and catch this huge wave in your life. Otherwise, if you don't catch, maybe you can fall. So it's better you catch.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to say exactly the same. Just go for it. Like whatever you truly feel, what you want to do with your life, just go for it 100%.
Hey, it's Emery here. I just wanted to end the episode with a bit of a reflection. I was really privileged to be able to interview Joana and Lena. I love to, be able to explore Portugal, and I drove up to Ericeira from Lisbon to be able to do this interview, and Joana welcomed us into her home. It was a really lovely experience, and I just want to thank the community for making that happen. One of the things that I thought was interesting that came out of this interview and the research that I did in order to do the interview was the lack of conversation around queerness in sport and the lack of transgender representation, as well as just sexual diversity. This is a way that we can see that sports is just another sort of representation of the bigger picture around the journey we still need to traverse in order to have better or more meaningful gender equality and sexual diversity in different areas of our society. Thank you for listening to the Color Coded podcast, which is produced by the Nova SBE Pride Association in Lisbon. We produce episodes throughout the semester, so please check out our website to see more of the episodes and other projects that we produce. If you'd like to check out more of Lena and Joana's content, visit their Instagrams. We've put those in the description too.